to Module 6, all about checks. When you opened your checking account, you probably received a small starter booklet with checks and deposit slips. Then 10 days later, you received an updated checkbook filled with your checks with your name, address, and bank details. But what are checks and how do they work? Checks are a way of transferring money from your account to someone else or to pay a bill versus using cash. Checks were the primary way people made payments for bills prior to the online options we have today. But the use of checks is alive and well. Some companies still pay employees with checks. People still write checks to pay bills, especially if the receiving organization cannot accept electronic payments. Therefore, it is important to understand how checks work. When writing a check, you need to input the full official name of the person or company in the Pay to the Order of line. Then fill in the amount to be paid. This can only be in US dollars. On the next line, you need to write out the dollar amount in words. This is to validate that the numbers are the same as the words and the issuer is intending to send that amount to the recipient. If they do not match, the check may be rejected. Then sign the check with the same signature you used when you set up the account. Signatures will be validated, and if they are not a close enough match, they may be rejected. You can add a note at the bottom of the check to remember why you wrote it or just to send a fun message to the recipient. Now, if you receive a check, you will need to endorse it before depositing it into your account. Endorse means to sign the check, which will be on the back. Never endorse a check before you deposit it, as someone can take that check and cash it. If you want to deposit at a later date, but need to sign now, put the words "for deposit only" and then sign. You will need to complete a deposit slip, which is in the back of your checkbook, with the date and the amount of the check. You only need a deposit slip if you are physically going to the bank. If you are using a mobile app, you can just follow the deposit instructions, which still include signing the back of the check and taking pictures of both sides. Make sure your checkbook is secured properly. People can steal your checks and make payments to themselves or others. Checks can be written for cash instead of a proper name, which makes this transfer instrument vulnerable to fraud. So always know where your checkbook is and periodically check your bank statement to ensure all your checks are accounted for. Bouncing a check means something gets paid out of your checking account that you don't have sufficient funds for. For example, an automatic bill payment or an online purchase. Then the bank may let the payment go through but charge you an overdraft fee. It might vary from bank to bank, but the standard fee is $38, and most banks will charge that up to 5 times per day. So, for example, if it's the first of the month and you have a lot of bills that get paid automatically and you don't have enough money in your checking account to pay them, the bank might let 5 of them get paid, but they'll charge you $38 each. That means $190 in charges for not having enough money to cover those bills. This is why we talked about having overdraft protection. Some banks may charge an additional fee if you don't get money into your account to cover the bills or purchases that caused your account to become negative. This is what is called having an account in good standing. Again, this will vary depending on your bank, but it's usually around $5 per day, and that fee will continue to be charged per day until that account has a positive balance. Let's talk about the numbers on the bottom of your checks. There are 3 distinct numbers. On the left is the routing number. It is always 9 digits, and this number identifies your bank. In the middle is your account number. Usually 10 to 12 digits, it identifies your specific bank account. And on the right is the check number, usually 3 to 4 digits. This number helps identify each check individually for you. It is important to be familiar with these numbers, as you may be asked for them by an employer to set up direct deposit or when you want to electronically transfer funds. In conclusion, checks are still a common way to transfer funds, so it is important to understand how they work. Bouncing a check is an expensive mistake and can add up to hundreds of dollars in fees. And finally, the numbers on the bottom of checks are critical to ensuring transactions are applied to the correct accounts.